Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Drivetime Podcast, the global auto tech podcast designed to help you understand technology in your job, wherever you work in automotive. I'm Jackie Barker, your host, and this week I'm joined by the incredible Max Cavazzini from AWS.
Hello, and thanks for having me here.
Max, just explain a little bit about the role that you have at AWS and the people that you work with.
Yeah. Hello, and thanks for having me. So my job is to help automotive and manufacturing customers to adopt technology. So I think it would be a super nice conversation because I see OEMs, tier ones down to dealers. So the entire automotive industry and supply chain too. So actually, this is the daily job, right? Helping customers to achieve their targets through technology.
And that's exactly why this podcast was kind of designed. It's about helping, I think, explain the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So magic happens, things appear on our phones or in our laptops or wherever we browse. And that's powered by some fairly major technology and computing and sort of data power. And that's kind of really what AWS sort of, as in my understanding, it does. So it would be really helpful just to explain how AWS came about, because it was kind of a byproduct of the main e-commerce site that we all know and love very well, but it's powered by the engine that sits in the back end.
Yeah, so everyone knows Amazon.com, the retailer, and basically it arrived, was the end of 2000 and, internet, big boom and, the bubble after, but this is where Amazon got enough knowledge about internal IT systems that then they decided to create AWS. So our current president went to our founder and say, hey, why don't you bring the internal knowledge and technology that we use for Amazon.com to public cloud? And this is where in 2006 AWS was born, right? Public cloud means you remove all the heavy lifting of, data center and technology and give people the chance to use and scale in a secure way, in an efficient way, the technology for achieving their goals. So actually was a byproduct because the speed and scale Amazon was growing allowed to get a lot of internal knowledge and a lot of lessons. There is a super famous sentence from Andy Jassy: experience cannot be compressed. There are lessons that you need to go through to learn. And if you think about Amazon, the scale and the speed, it's something that has been brought then to the industries and to the world, right? So think about Prime Day, think about, when something big is happening, Amazon can scale up and down thanks to the cloud.
Yeah.
And this is really where AWS started.
So the Prime Day thing is really interesting, isn't it? I suppose that came out of like Black Friday, or there's like these big e-commerce events that drive lots of people to kind of buy online, and there's like Black Friday, or there are certain big things. So you mentioned like big events that drive loads of traffic. Historically, that would break the internet. you're like, oh, we tried to buy tickets and the thing crashed. There's loads of challenges, isn't there, when a concert goes live and suddenly the whole thing seizes up. So what you've explained is the ability to scale up. So you increase the capacity of consumers coming onto the site, data being processed. Is that right? Just explain so I can...
Yeah, so if you think about the past, the classic purchasing process. I need a server to run my e-commerce. You place the order, you wait weeks, and then the server is coming in, you set up, and suddenly you have a spike in your orders and traffic, and then you need a second server up and down.
Yeah.
Cloud is solving exactly that. Think about electricity. You just, light on and light off. This is the cloud. AWS helps you basically managing. You don't need to anymore worry about, I have a spike in traffic, because the capacity, it's coming from AWS. And so whatever you need, likely you can use cloud to provide that capacity. But it's not just the capacity. It's the ability to be global. in hours, right? Think about, I need to set up a server in Germany and tomorrow in France and after tomorrow in Spain.
Yeah.
This is where really cloud helps you. Security-wise, there are a lot of smart engineers, much smarter than me, I tell you. Security is job zero, right? So imagine you don't have anymore a little server under your desk that you have to manage, to upgrade, to maintain, and you just rely on AWS to do the heavy lifting. And what do you do with the money and time saved? You concentrate on your customers because this is where your business is.
Yeah. So you talk about like little servers under your desk. So back in the day, we'd have a whole big box of something, wouldn't you? And you would literally store it locally, and then it would go pop and you'd lose all your photos. It's like, oh. So I think we've been using sort of hosted solutions for a while without probably even realizing that that's what we were using, because you back it up, all your phone stuff is backed up, you lose your phone, you get a new phone, it instantly pulls it back down again because it's stored not on your device, it's stored somewhere else. So just going back a little bit further, Max, so how did you kind of get into this space? What's the kind of the background that you had? Were you automotive or were you technical?
No, I mean, actually by design, I would say, and education, I'm an industrial engineer. But I started in telco, launching the first UMTS network in the world, in Italy, from Hutchison Whampoa. And at that time, I remember we were a lot about, iPhone was not there, but still we were a lot about value-added services, right? And then automotive said, wait, the car will be connected and it will be the next smartphone and bring apps in the car. This is how I moved to automotive. So bringing my, let's say, smartphone experience into automotive. So I moved to Stellantis to lead, at that time it was still Fiat Chrysler, to lead the connected car and to lead, all the related connected services around infotainment. I have to say, and I was part even of the launch of the first CarPlay on Ferrari, and I have to say at that time the industry was really convinced that car would have been the next smartphone. Now, of course, there is a technology challenge, and this is still what I see today, right? When you think about car makers, they are not software companies. So still there is a challenge. How do I make sure I become a software-driven and data-driven OEM? And this is true for the entire value chain, right? OEMs, distributors, car dealers, rental companies. It's really shifting into a software-defined world rather than, I would say when I started my career, hardware was much more important than software. Now it's the opposite. Would you buy a car without the right technology in place? Would you buy a car that it's not upgradable when there is something wrong? No, right? Because we are all used to smartphones and we are, as customers, expecting the car to be close as possible to the technology we use.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. So software-defined vehicles, I read an article recently about exactly that point, that we have this expectation, or the vehicle is kind of almost designed with the technology in it first. Is the technology with some wheels attached to it, really. So it's just getting you around from where you need to get to. It also, and I don't think we've necessarily connected up the dots yet, it gives us so much data about consumer behaviour, where we're driving, how we're driving, what apps we're using, features over the years. You talk about how do you upgrade the software once you're in the vehicle. You don't need to go and take it to a garage anymore to have everything done. You can just get it upgraded. You can it'll pull it down. It'll automatically. My car tells me it's updating the software. I have no idea how it even does it, but it does it, and I can see where it is on the app on my phone, or I can see how much charge it has from the app on my phone because all of my devices are connected. So that's a really interesting thing. So you, in that space, then could you see how software was becoming sort of more prevalent, or were you just naturally drawn towards more of that technology, and you kind of ended up kind of migrating across?
No, I think there are. The first, if you think about connected car, right? The first is, okay, how do I bring the vehicle into the cloud?
Yeah.
And this was, I would say, years ago now. in 10 years from now, 100% of the cars will be connected. And you have ways to collect the right data and bring them from the vehicle to the cloud. The second piece is bringing the cloud to the vehicle, because again, as a customer, you really don't care if you're at home, if you are driving in the office. You do expect your apps, your data to be available when you need them, where you need them. Yeah. And this is really bringing the cloud to the vehicle. And once you have done that, data are centralized in a cloud. You don't need, as a customer, to worry where physically my data are. Yeah. You just need to make sure they are basically available to you, they are secure, and you can access them. And this is where really the technology plays a role, because again, the amount of data each person, vehicle, device is generating is huge. Now, from an industry perspective, you need a data strategy, the right data strategy, hopefully in place, because there you derive insights, you derive the real business value. Yeah. I mean, when I enter, let's say, a showroom, in theory, if I provide my name, I already have a digital footprint. And the person in front of me, I mean, the salesman, let's say, should already know who I am, what are my habits, which car they need to suggest me, right? Because data are available. I think the question is, are we using them?
I don't think we are. I think you're absolutely right. There's so much data. And part of it is knowing how to access that data in a way that doesn't feel creepy, because we have to kind of be aware of permissions and how much of my data I want you to have, or how do you use that data in a way that either makes my life easier or makes me safer, or because I think there's so much data within the vehicle, so we know how the vehicle is being driven. We can start to predict also when parts will need to be replaced. So there's lots of other really cool stuff we can start to take from the vehicle to keep the consumers safer for longer. And I don't think we're necessarily using all of that uniformly in the same way across the industry. I think some people are, and I don't know whether it's what the holdup is with it, but it just feels like it makes sense to do things more along those lines. Yeah. But do you see OEMs having data strategies in the way that they could, or do you think that's an opportunity where we could help, how that industry could evolve more?
I mean, the industry itself, it's evolving a lot, right? And again, every OEM has a different maturity. I think if you take BMW, they are working with us on a BMW data hub. And if you think about the amount of data, which again are safely stored somewhere and used, is where really the value is. And it's on us, meaning AWS as a technology company, to help our customers remove silos. Because one of the biggest challenges is that data are still siloed many times. Yeah. And it's difficult if you don't, it's a 1 + 1 = 3 approach, right? When you combine data, it's even generating more value than the single data. And AWS is helping around that. Now, I think the second thing is, if you have a data strategy, then you can really start solving business challenges. There is a nice sentence from Jeff Bezos in a shareholder letter saying customers are usually beautifully dissatisfied, which means that by the time you satisfy a need, they are already looking for something else. And if you think, and we go back to the Amazon.com and then we go back to auto, but no one will ask, can you deliver in a longer time? Can I pay more my items, right? No, you are beautifully dissatisfied, meaning as soon as I give you an item in 2 days, you will look for 1 day. And then maybe you will look into the same day delivery. This is true for any industry. even automotive. As soon as you deliver a car that can be updated by software, okay, how fast do you update? How frequently do you update? And can I have more features on it? Can I buy features directly from my screen instead of having, to go on a website? So think about the ability really to fulfill the needs that are, again, the bar is always rising, but technology is there. That's why I like the Amazon culture of working backwards, right? You start with the customer, you look at what are customers willing to get, and then you work backwards to the right type of technology.
So, just going to replay some of that. So, beautifully disappointed. I think we have one of the moments, we did some research years ago about how do you, and I think it's like from a psychology thing. Years ago, I retrained to be a coach, and I think having kids as well, disappointment comes from their expectation, and all kids want the world on a stick. They anything less than that is disappointment. So they want to stay up late, have all the sweets. No, so beautifully. I think the survey that we shared last year, and it was from a McKinsey study, that only 1% of consumers found the car buying experience to be really good. 1%, and so there's a long way to go to meet expectations. But I think disappointment comes from expectation. If you keep pushing the expectation because you're delivering more and more and better and faster and cheaper, then every other vertical feels a bit rubbish by comparison, because it's like, oh, if it's not there by now, why haven't I even ordered it? So we almost meet ourselves coming back with how we just keep pushing ourselves to do better. So thinking about how automotive retailers can start to think about delivering something close, or being aware of how they can not, how they can counter that customers being disappointed, because it's a challenging experience for retailers to deliver a great experience when consumers turn up having done loads of research, they know what they want, and the retailer wants to try and sell them a car or help them into a finance deal. And there's a lot of expectations that probably aren't met because they're used to buying things online through companies like Amazon, who have all these intuitive algorithms that make it easy for me to find everything because you've tracked all of my behavior. So I think, how can we help retailers be more aware of where they meet those customer expectations, and how we can start to help them just get a bit better at using the technology that's already available? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but in the end, if you think, we are all customers and consumers, right? And again, the expectation is not changing because you are in your business capacity or you are in your family capacity. And so I think it's always a good exercise if you put yourself in a customer's shoes, and you are able to do that because, again, in your normal life, you are a customer of someone else, and ask yourself, what would I expect when I go and buy a car? Would you stay, minutes and minutes waiting over the phone, or standing and waiting someone to come to you and such? Some car makers are making test drive available through cell phones, smartphones, without having salespeople, there. You just book your test drive, you unlock the car, technology is there, you drive around, you provide feedback, and you go back. And while doing that, there is the chance to collect data from the driver. Where did he go? What's the feedback around the car and such? So again, I think the better exercise is really to put yourself in customer shoes and ask yourself, how can I provide a better customer experience? There are many ways to do that, right? Is it a chatbot? Is it whatever, right? But at the same time, typically when you have also a workforce which is digitally savvy, you can ask them their expectations, even in terms, you go to a workshop, why would you still use paper and heavy paperwork instead of a tablet, right? This is a super easy way to start with technology. And again, you have a lot of partners, you have a lot of providers that can help you solve specific challenges. So my advice would be start with a business issue. Every business is different, so could be really a very wide variety of use cases, but start with a business issue, see which value can bring, and then work backward to the technology. Never start with the technology and try then to, you don't innovate, you don't do technology for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But start with the customer and work backwards.
Yeah, like literally walk the steps a customer is walking, and then see where I say to people, see where you get stuck, try to buy from yourself, see where you get stuck, and you'll find out really quickly how you're pushing a consumer to do something that's unnecessary. Get rid of that, make it quicker, like just connect it all up, connect the dots.
Yeah, and if I may, also data are important, right? Again, sometimes you collect a lot of data, you throw them somewhere and you don't use it.
Yeah.
So what are the data that could change the customer experience, could help you achieve the business goals and such? And then again, the technology to share the right amount of data and the right data, it's there with the right permission, with the right security. So let's not over-index on, my data I don't want to share, because again, if you share the right amount of data with the right partners and the right players in the industry, likely you get value out of it, and you can build, a graph where a potential buyer, who is the graph of connections, what are they doing, what is the customer gonna likely buy in the next 12 months, which model, which make, which color, right? And this is something which, again, technology allows. Of course, we need a cultural change.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is we have technology, but it's the people and the processes that we're trying to gradually shift towards using more of that data that's available. So your role from, you mentioned that you went from working for Stellantis and then moving into AWS. So what were the steps that kind of led you into the world of tech fully? How did we drag you out of the OEM into the tech space?
That's interesting. Again, I think the starting point was connected car, autonomous, and how technology can accelerate this journey. And then I was fascinated by, AWS. I already knew AWS as a cloud provider, but then I think the enlightening moment for me is we are creating business units by industry, and we are looking for experts coming from the industry. You can look at cloud from a technology perspective. I'm a software engineer, I'm a developer, I'm a cloud architect. And the angle that was missing and we built, it's the industry. So people knowing what are the challenges of the industry, knowing the trends. And this is where you start to speak the language of the customer. And again, you are then able to help the customer to co-innovate. Really my job and my team's job, it's sit down with customer, understand what are the pain points, and then turn to the engineers and the technology savvy people in AWS to find the right technology to solve the challenge. To me, that was fascinating. It's still here, some 8 years in now. Really exciting to see a company which is, again, always putting the customer as a first place, being the most customer-centric company in the world, which is true for the entire Amazon, gives you the opportunity to wake up in the morning and say, okay, what are the challenges my customers are facing and how can I help? Yeah. It's not a classic job where you have, your toolkit and you go out and sell. No, it's talking to customers, understanding their pains, bringing them back to the technology savvy people and say, let's solve it.
And you have lots, I think the similarities are you have, as we do, we have our customers. So we have customers which are people that use our technology, customers with OEMs who ensure that we integrate correctly with their data system so that our DMS landscape can ingest that data and use it in the right way so retailers can sell, manage, maintain vehicles. And then similarly, you have consumers who use the site to buy goods and products, advertisers who use the marketplace to sell goods and services, and then I suppose people like us who use your data centers. So we partner with you from how do we make sure that we use the right data center so we can mobilize our own data globally with the right kind of partner. So that means that you can be customer obsessed on many different levels.
Sure.
Which, I love that. I think rather than I've worked within automotive for 30 years and we know that the metric for the OEMs is sell more cars. Obviously, they're building great product, but their metric is really selling more cars to fleets or consumers or to rental. But they've got to sell and service the manufacturing factories coming off the production line, and you've got to find a customer for that vehicle. So they invest a huge amount of marketing spend to build a brand, find consumers and to get their product on the road. So as you've kind of evolved into the automotive space, when you joined AWS from the OEM space, what were the biggest trends? Were there any big surprises that when you landed you thought, my God, this is great, or wow, I'm unprepared, or what was the biggest sort of memory for you when you kind of joined?
I think one of the biggest wow moments was really understanding how cloud can help in managing the amount of data that each vehicle is generating, right? If you think about all the electronic units that are in a vehicle, and they are generating gigabytes of data every hour. The ability to collect the right data at the right moment, the ability to bring them and make the data available to internal teams, to the customer, and create new services. This, to me, was the wow moment, meaning when I joined was still the early stages of connected car. Autonomous was something still on PowerPoint, I have to say. Now, if you look at the way the industry is using technology, again, in US, in California, 400 million rides will happen with the robotaxis, right? And this is, to me, 400 million. We reached 10 million paid rides already. 10 million. So world is changing fast. And to me, again, what hasn't changed in the past 8 years is if you are able to quickly adapt to the world which is changing fast. We cannot change it. This is where you have success and such. And again, there is an interview from our founder, Jeff Bezos, saying he gets the question, what's going to change? But he thinks that the most interesting question is what's not going to change. If you focus on long, durable needs, this is where you have a successful company, right? Stick to what's not going to change, because then technology can allow you to adapt. But still, if you can find a durable need, that's think about the Kindle, right? The durable need is I want to read every book, existing book, everywhere, and have it available in less than 1 minute. Did it change in the last 10, 15, 20 years? No, the need is still there, but we have different Kindle ways, different technologies there, right? And this would be also my advice. When I need to buy a car, the ability to test it, the ability to get the right car for specific moment of my life, right? This is not going to change. Now, the technology serving the need may change and it will change, but the basic need will still be there.
I've never heard that term before, durable need. That's a new one, but I really like it because actually when we think about, I love reading books. I wasn't a big reader, and then I kind of really got into reading, obviously paperback, and then I had a Kindle because you literally can have it. You can have every book. I think I read 6 books on my Kindle 1 year on holiday, and it takes up this much space, which is perfect. And now I go to audio, so I listen to audiobooks and podcasts, hence this. Because that to me is something I can walk the dog every morning and I'm listening to whatever I want to listen to and I learn something. And I mainly listen to I've actually kind of just got back into reading a bit of, trash fiction, because you need to read a bit of trash fiction from time to time. It's not always about learning everything. But that's so durable need is the thing you're doing won't change, but how you do it will change. That's always going to evolve, because technology will keep evolving in the way that we consume that particular media. So yeah, really interesting. Okay, great. So that was the biggest thing, I suppose, that you kind of learned when you went there. And then in the last 8 years, what have you really seen sort of shifting? Because, you've remained in automotive and you lead that sector. So do you find, and we can talk about this, I think, because what I see is OEMs desperately trying to make things better, but they sometimes seem to be stuck in a loop of, faltering on projects, and it could be that the data isn't in the right place, or it could be that they haven't got the right skill, but we seem to be sort of poised always for this massive transformation. But I think transformation happens in a journey of 1,000 steps, and that's what we probably see more, is that you've just got to keep moving towards that constant drive to make it better for customers, and then you have that. It's not in a big step. You don't kind of go ba-da, and then it's fixed and then you can go home. You have to keep doing it. So what's been your observation with working with automotive, whether it's OEMs or retailers?
Well, transformation is a journey, right? And so when you launch something, I think this is the starting point and starting line, not the finish line. If I look back 8 years and I look now, I think it's now well understood that you need a data strategy and you can use data. More and more, especially, again, software defined, it's now, I would say, established. Not everyone really using it, but the fact that you can, even in engineering and design, having virtual units, so you build a software that will work on hardware before the hardware is actually built. Wow. And we mentioned autonomous. Now, on the customer side, I would say the current generation has never seen a world without a smartphone and internet. And there are shifting profit pools, right? Because again, the classic model, I buy a car, I drive for some years, and then I resell it, is much more fragmented now. I can rent, I can do car sharing. There are different ways of moving. What everyone is seeing is that the young generation sometimes is less passionate about cars, but still the durable need, it's they need to move from A to B.
Yes.
So what the industry is trying to do, it's how do I adapt and still having or helping people moving from A to B in a different way. And I think the effort is there. Of course, there is a lot of competition, margins, discussion. It's not an easy one. You have new competitors coming in. Some brands are struggling. But in general, I think the industry, it's at least everyone realized it. Now, the speed can be different OEMs by OEMs, but you take Rivian, right? You go and, you can engineer in months versus years because they started with a cloud-based approach, AWS. But again, the mindset, I need 5 years from the moment I start designing a new vehicle to the moment it's on the road. It's gone. And technology is there. Now, again, if you look at, I would say, small and nimbler OEMs, they are also doing a revolution, I would say, in the way they sell cars, in the way they manage. If you think about another customer, Sixt, what about paying a fixed amount of money and then you drive a different car based on your need of the day, of the week, of the month? I mean, this is something that without cloud, you couldn't achieve 10 years ago.
And there are going to be segments of customers that will do that. And there are segments, and I think it's making sure that we find customers and meet them where they are. So if you live in an urban area, you don't need a car all the time. Where I live, I do need a car all the time, but the majority of the time it is on my driveway. But the ability to get the car to me when I need it at the moment isn't there. But that's not to say that won't change in the next 10 years. I may only need to use the car 3 times a week, and my kids are now all driving. I don't have to do a school run ever again. So they're all grown up. So the youngest is 18 but driving. So, and they love their independence, so I'm happy about that. So I think it's interesting, isn't it? So certain markets, and do you see this? Is there more of an appetite in certain countries or certain regions where there is more of this flexibility, where consumers are kind of happy, whether it's just London, or we had Sarah Noble on the show recently, and she said she just uses the car when she needs it. She'll just kind of like on the app, the car arrives, off she goes. Doesn't have to own the car, doesn't need one, doesn't want one. So whereas, I don't know whether certain markets are more mature than others, or whether it's certain cities or states.
I mean, they are, if you think about digital broadly, of course, if you think about Europe, Northern Europe, it's more advanced than Southern Europe. I think another aspect, it's depending, are you living countryside or in a city, and what's the role of public transportation, right? Because if you live somewhere where public transportation is not working, still again, you have to move to A to B, drive your kids to school, go to the office, whatever. And in that case, still likely you are a classic customer for the automotive industry. You buy a car and you use it.
Yeah.
Again, London, would you really need to own a car? Likely not. But from a car maker perspective, it's still maybe you are, instead of selling the car to the final customer, you are selling to a company which is managing a fleet, right? And this is about the flexibility to be able to serve multiple segments of customer.
Yeah.
And this is true even for classic customers. When someone is entering a showroom, they are different. They have their own past, own culture, own need, and the ability to quickly serve exactly that customer, it's key to survive. I mean, it's not just the car as a brand, as something you like to see and own, but it's also the ability you interact with the brand. I remember 15 years ago, I saw, and we are going a little bit back, I saw a study that was saying that dealers were talking to their customers 4 days a year. And likely was for maintenance or breakdown, not the best moment to interact with the customer and create loyalty.
Yeah.
Now, 15 years after, again, I think technology is there. You can reach out to a customer easily. Mobile phone, we always have the mobile phone in our hands. We read emails and such. So why don't you interact with the customer in an happy moment instead of during a breakdown? Oh, I need a roadside assistance, right? So this is something I think that the industry realized. Now, again, not every player is in the same journey, let's say, path or step in the journey. Everyone it's in a journey. Someone is already using Gen AI at the top. Some of them are still deciding, do I need AI or not?
Yeah. So on the AI, I mean, I wanted to come on and talk about AI anyway, because that's the big, obviously everyone's thinking about, we've kind of gone through digital transformation, we're still going through it. And AI, machine learning into AI is another kind of big area where I think there's a knowledge gap and also a slight reticence to kind of, people think they need to kind of catch up, and we're all now playing with it. I mean, I'm playing with it a lot. I use it all the time because it fits my brain and how it works perfectly, because I'm not I can write a proposal from my mind map. So just talking about how AI is impacting the work that you do and how we manage data and machine, I think it would be good to explain some of the terms so that anyone listening will understand what we mean by this when we kind of, as we bring it into your space, into the way that we manage data. So machine learning is the kind of, it's like repetition. It learns, you've done a thing, you've done a thing, you've done a thing. They're likely to do a thing. So you can see it starts to track trends. So I suppose the use case for that would be, and please keep me honest because this is how I understand it. Years ago when I worked for Auto Trader, I went to see an OEM and they said, God, could you do this thing where you do that thing that Amazon does, where customers that looked at this also bought one of these? So I've just put the pool up at the weekend. I started to buy chlorine tablets now. And luckily, my app is saying, you're going to need all this stuff too. Brilliant. Saves me searching. So is that machine learning? Is that kind of what that means? Have I got that correct?
Yeah, I mean, broadly, yes. Think about analyzing a large amount of data through a computer instead of a human.
Yeah.
So it's the machine crunching the data and learning, right? And recognizing patterns.
Yeah.
Now, I think as Amazon, we've been doing ML since decades, I would say, as you mentioned. The biggest step, it's having a system, which is AI and now Gen AI generating, which can not just analyze, but also take decision and have some reasoning, right? Think about, the way you purchase as a company. Typically, you go through a purchasing order, someone is approving, and then moving to the next step. Do we have the budget? Yes, and it takes ages, right?
Painful. Yeah.
When you hear the word agentic AI, it's a system that, based, of course, on the rules you give and guidance you gave to the system, it's autonomous doing that, saving money, saving time. So I think this is where the industry is going through in every part. It's not just the step of selling a car. It's building the car, distributing a car. So taking the recommendation of the level of inventory you need in your showroom.
Yes.
What is the probability the next car you'll sell, it's a red car? It will be electric, hybrid, or... This is where, machine learning and AI helps. Now, the next step on generative AI, it's the way you interact with people or machines, if it's agentic. So imagine to book a service appointment. Again, why would you spend minutes waiting at the phone, calling, or going? It's a chat and can be done now in natural language. We have customers that are even able, you speak in one language, you get an answer in another language.
Yeah.
Or the owner's manual, right? I'm German looking into a French, whatever, classic. I ask in German and I get the reply in French or similar. Again, this is, I think, where we will see majority of innovation in terms of digital customer experience interacting with customers, because you start interacting no more with a machine, but with a machine which can be similar to a human behavior.
Yeah. Things like, I have a whole conversation with ChatGPT regularly. I kind of go, I'm doing this thing. And it goes, what a great idea. we have back and forth. I'm like, I really like that, but could you change it to this? Of course, no problem at all. So you can, I actually asked it the other day, based on our conversation, what would the internet find, what would you know about me from our conversation? And it just did a whole overview of everything. So when you've deployed AI, I know on the front end, I know you can't talk too much about Amazon.com or how that kind of store works, but there is now a little agent that sits in the corner. Is it called Rufus? Is that right?
Yeah.
We obviously have Alexa in the corner of every room that we kind of talk to. I ask it every day what the weather's going to be while I'm getting dressed, so I know what clothes to wear. And it's so these things are just it's making my life easier. It's doing the thinking for me. I haven't got to find my phone and even look for the weather app. I just ask the device in the corner, and that was a language model, wasn't it? So we were training that years ago because it was listening to language and learning. So when we think about AI and how AI is evolving and how we train AI, how it continually evolves, what are the biggest things that retailers can be aware of that they should be preparing for with AI? How can they start to bring it into their business more?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects. One is the customer-facing aspects. Again, as you were mentioning, there are assistants which can interact with people. So again, think about someone calling from roadside assistance and needing help. You can have an virtual agent helping them, but even as you were telling, reassuring them. It's human, right? It's bringing.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
see where you are.
It's bringing
We've got
you
these agents this far away from you.
Peace of mind.
Yeah.
Peace of mind.
Yeah.
And it's always available, 24/7, right? So this is where I would really focus on the way you interact with people when they need and on what exactly they need in that moment. The second piece is about the back office, right? How do you automate as much as possible? I think one of the less known ways to face the AI, there are repetitive tasks where humans are really not adding any value. And in any industry, there are several cases. This is a good place to start because, again, once you have a data strategy, once you collect the data, the technology to automate and remove those low-value repetitive tasks, and this is bringing efficiency because suddenly it's about using the time of the humans, employees, workers, better, right? So they will be even happier because no one is happy to do repetitive low-value tasks.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
So if the machines can take over those, suddenly you have happier people, happier employees that can use their creativity to solve most complex jobs and do stuff. So I think there are these two elements. One is the customer-facing element, but the other is the internal one. Where can you automate? Which insights can you find quickly instead of looking at hundreds of pages, an Excel file and a PDF, and where's the information? In one click, you can find the insight and the information.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is it's how do you, so finding those low value sort of repetitive tasks that, because we're doing the similar thing where we're looking at how do we help retailers. So like the customer front end, you can now book your service online and the application talks to that it knows the technician's diary because we've connected up those data sources. So actually the algorithm can find an available slot based on the vehicle and how long I need to have that service for because we integrate with the manufacturer's data. So all of those data points are starting to connect up. And we know there's still work to do and it's a continuing, somebody will bring out a new car, we need to connect that up. And I think we're going to see more of that from software-defined vehicles, how that will start to trigger telling me when I need a service. It's not going to rely on me to know. It will tell me, book a service, I've found you 3 options. So things like that will probably be automated. It can find from my location where I'm likely to find the most convenient place to have it serviced because it knows I drive there all the time. So I think those are probably the durable need is I need to get my car maintained, but the stuff that will change is how much of that is automated for me is my expectation. But I don't know what you think is kind of coming next, what we can expect in the near term, and then in the kind of tomorrow's world, for any of us that are old enough to remember tomorrow's world.
Again, I think that today you have enough data and the technology to be proactive.
Yeah.
Why would I need to spend time and effort for car maintenance, which again, it's a need, it's a given, I need to do it. On the same side, think about the dealer side. You can assign the best technician to that vehicle or to that issue, because again, if you collect data on what's happening in the, let's say, shop floor, you can really manage efficiencies, right? And start bringing. Second thing, there is clearly a skill gap with maybe, people leaving and retiring and new people coming in. How do you make sure you bring them up to speed quickly? Technology is there.
Yeah.
I mean, you capture the knowledge that you have at shop floor level, you bring it to the cloud, and then that knowledge is available to allow newcomers to catch up quickly. So this is happening now. Now, if you think about long term, if we believe that autonomous will happen, and I think it will, I think the industry little bit oversold or will be 2030. I don't know if it's a broad market, but will come. It means you will have much more time in the vehicle because you are not driving. How will you consume time? This is where you bring cloud to the vehicle. I mean, you were mentioning Audible and podcasts and such? Will you be reading? Will you be listening to music? Will you be working? I think this is a new, new market opening up. And the technology of virtual assistants, they will know you. So when you jump in a car, which likely you won't own, the virtual assistant will know you and maybe set up the car already for you. And then you jump off and the car will be set up for the next rider, not driver, right?
I do tell it as well where I want to go. So I use voice a lot now because I have CarPlay and it has WhatsApp, and I don't text when I drive. My phone is connected and it's out of sight. But I do have a conversation via text through my WhatsApp app, through my CarPlay. So my kids all, sometimes you have to just turn it off because it's just too much. But sometimes you can reply to it asks, do you want to reply to the message? And I go, yes. And it goes, okay. And you tell it what to say and it does it. And sometimes it says the wrong thing entirely, which is hilarious. And I send it anyway.
And I treat my Alexa with respect. I still say, Alexa, can you please turn up the volume? Which is interesting, right?
That's like, I know. As soon as you go, could you stop listening now? Because you got to hear this. If your phone's in the corner and you say something, it sounds like theory or whatever, it thinks you're talking to it and you're not. So so that's good. So we're going to wrap the episode up, but are there any pearls of wisdom that you can leave our listeners with of how they can start to think about data? Because one of the common things I keep hearing on these shows is you can't have AI unless you've got your data in the right place, because AI will act on a data source and that data source has to be accessible. So I think that would be how do we help retailers and OEMs and lenders and leasers kind of get ready for what's coming in terms of agentic AI and how we can help them help customers?
Yeah, realize that without a data strategy and not necessarily own the data, there are ways to share the data and such, but without a data strategy, you won't be able to automate, use not even ML, machine learning, right? Yeah. Let's then AI, Gen AI. Second thing, it's find the right partners. Because again, you cannot be an expert in everything, but there are a lot of partners solving specific issues and such. And again, I like to think about the cloud and AWS cloud as a glue, putting together different partners on the same data platform to make integration easy, because this is where you get speed. Again, the world is running, not walking, so we need to have this sense of urgency. Second thing, it's efficiency. So, there are two ways to run a business. You sell more or you spend less in any business, right?
Yeah.
So, cloud and partners can really solve the two aspects of the business. Don't be afraid. Pilot, test. Again, the beauty of the cloud is that if something is not working, you didn't spend million euros and you didn't wait for 2 years to understand is it working. We do pilots in weeks, few £1,000 or dollars or euros. And if it's not working, you simply try something else until you find the right thing. So don't be shy, try out and test. Once you have found the right thing, scale fast, right? It's really, technology is there. We started the conversation saying, the Prime Day. It's true also for your business. You can scale fast and achieve your goals.
I love that. So having like a Prime Day is just one day where you try something, and we know that retailers have events all the time, and you could just try something, test something, have a go, and then learn from that. I love that, because actually if you never do anything different or slightly not risky, but actually it's managing the risk, isn't it? We're going to try and see if we used to have a hypothesis-based approach where, like Auto Trader had this, we believe that if we do this, this will happen. And they test it. And they go, oh, it didn't happen, or it did happen when we did this. So you move the button around, you move the buy now button around on the site, and you can just see where do people click.
And connect the dots.
Of course, absolutely connect the dots. So do they reserve now or buy now? Which button do they click? So you're just testing which things were going to elicit a response.
And then, if I may, the last thing, there are a lot of datas which, again, you don't own, but you can use.
Yes.
So, again, if you need some data that you don't own, it's not always the best strategy to try to collect and own. Go out, there is a market there. Use the data, do data sharing, buy data, try, and then if you find something, scale fast.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's good advice. Max Cavazzini from AWS. What a great episode that was. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Don't forget, if you are watching us on YouTube, hit the like and follow, and you'll never miss an episode of the Drivetime Podcast.